Okay, everyone. Well, welcome to one of our wonderful events here at Island Innovation. We are having a series of events and discussions that are specifically geared towards the Conference of Parties, or COP27, that is currently taking place in Egypt at the moment. This COP in particular often has been referred to as Africa's COP because of the context in which it's taking place. It's taking place on the African continent. And as we well know, the African continent is suffering some of the major effects of climate change. Also in terms of energy security, the African continent is a place that we really need to seek to focus on and see how can solutions be implemented in a way to benefit the people of this continent. We have with us today as our guest the Chief Sustainability Officer, the Government of Mombasa in Kenya, Mr. Basil Angaga, and he is here to have a little chat with me and answer some questions that I have. So welcome, Basil. It's great to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Stacey, and I'm so much pleased to be here and to just interact with our audience.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to ask first a relatively general question. I'm going to just ask you, can you give us an overview of climate change in the African continent and how is it affecting the livelihoods of people in Mombasa?
Well, climate change in the African context is something that we are all concerned about because for cities like Mombasa, which are island cities, the threat is more pronounced. We are getting worrying predictions from IPCC about seawater levels and just the disruption of our livelihoods. For us, especially in Mombasa, there are also the interaction between demographic trends and climate change, especially the coastal area, given that most people move from the rural areas to the urban areas and they want to settle at the low elevation coastal zones. And this also gets to expose them to more risks that are associated with flooding. Also significant for us right now is the unpredictability of some of these risks, because increasing sea surface temperature that has been occasioned by this climate change has led to storm surges on the coastline, which of course generates higher wind speeds and heavier precipitation, and it becomes very difficult to forecast and prepare, or even worse, manage some of these challenges. But in the long run, there's also the threat to our natural defenses. Mangroves, for example, offer an effective buffer against coastal vulnerability to storm surges. They play a role that is equivalent to a role that an infrastructure designed to protect the coastal area play. But such risks and climate change events that now are exacerbated by flooding and rising seawaters means that the increasing ocean surface temperatures would raise inland salinity and putting some of these mangroves in jeopardy because they're already fragile. Our ecosystem is already overwhelmed by this threat, and now the strain that comes from these climate threats then mean that these mangroves will further be destroyed, exposing us to even more threats in Africa. There are also the challenge of water quality and quantity. As this seawater continues to rise, it means that there'll be a great intrusion of saline water into inland coastal areas, which could easily increase the salinity in groundwater that we so much heavily rely on. It also means that the water that we rely on for irrigation will also be contaminated, and even further bring more damaging impacts on our agriculture. There could also be vulnerabilities to diseases that are related to this kind of increasing salinities. But then the biggest concern for us is the threat on food security, because most of these coastal cities like Mombasa rely on fishing as one of our key economic activities. Most livelihoods in this city depend on artisanal fishing, and with the increasing water temperatures and acidification levels, many of these fish species would be extinct. Many of the places where they get to procreate would also be interfered with, and this would further diminish our catch, leading to losses of livelihoods to fishermen, and also just a bit of food insecurity for us. So that would be the threat in the current context. But then also you understand that there's also insufficient funding to some of these climate interventions that we want to put in place.
Yes, oh my goodness, Mr. Angaga, thank you so much for that really striking and insightful multifactorial view of the way that climate change is in fact impacting everything. You illustrated the intersections between agriculture and food security, and we often think about rising sea levels to do with island communities, but you've also highlighted for us the impact that is happening on coastal communities on your continent. The fact that it's also having an impact on water security is also obviously very serious, and we really appreciate that insight you've given us. So thank you. So in terms of that, now linking all of these issues that you mentioned, can you give us an outline of what you've been doing to build some resilience against these consequences?
Yeah, well, like I said, that our buffer right now is the mangrove cover that we have along the beach banks, and most of our work has been around mangrove rehabilitation, just trying to restore the ecosystem. We are also at the moment trying to put in place interventions around water security, and this would involve now trying to clean our rivers. Mombasa, for instance, adds a river that has 20 years ago was a source of very clean and fresh water, but now it's horrible. It's in a very dilapidated state. I think we are also concerned about trying to rehabilitate and restore that ecological system there, and also just to be able to teach our people on better practices that can ensure that we live more sustainably. We are focusing right now on behavior change to just try and educate our people that some of the things that we are doing are harmful to the environment, and that harm that we are causing to the environment gets back to us in very terrible ways. So the county government has really been heavy on education right now, and just trying to work with partners to restore our mangrove cover, and also just trying to secure groundwater. But also importantly is the interventions that we're making on advancing urban sustainable energy. We have also realized that the cost of energy is increasing, and most of our citizens, especially in the informal settlements, maybe cannot afford this, and maybe they end up now getting into practices that threaten the environment further, like cutting trees to generate fuel for household cooking. So apart from just trying to promote clean cooking technologies in Mombasa, we are also promoting renewable energy technologies, and more particularly solar energy. We are developing community integrated solar systems. This is because we've learned that most of the buildings that we have, especially in the informal settlements, cannot really contain the weight of a solar PV. So we've decided to just build integrated system in communities where everybody can then get access to this energy. We're also leading by example in the county government, trying to review our load profiles and trying to replace hydro with renewable energy. We have done a feasibility study with the Covenant of Mayors in Sub-Saharan Africa, which was, of course, founded by the German Development Agency, to just be able to replace hydro with solar in the county government. And we hope that as we do this, then everybody in the community would see sense and also try to adopt this. And the government also regulates. So we're also working on regulations to ensure that these technologies are affordable to many, and we're at it also redefining our building codes to ensure that at least there's an element of renewable energy in every building, especially the apartments, even at least to just get to heat water for bathing and other stuff.
That's fantastic. Thank you. It really struck me the way that you were highlighting not just things like nature-based solutions, which obviously delve into the importance of biodiversity and protecting biodiversity and conservation efforts, but also the role of policy. So, you know, we have that spectrum and we see that continuum, that it's really important to highlight as well the importance of education and behavioral change. And kind of linked to education now, I'd like to ask you a little bit about the Young Leaders Program and its goals. We know that's something that you've really spearheaded. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so as a government that is so committed to a low carbon transition and sustainable development, we decided to start this change from within, try to build up change champions from within government. We learned that we have a pool of young people in government, have the energy and the drive to inspire change in their communities. But what was lacking was capacity to be able to impact on communities. So with the endorsement of the previous governor of Mombasa, we started a government-led Young Leaders Program that initially targeted young people in public service. So they are trained for a year, and the training focuses on personal development and transformational leadership. And while at it, they are prompted to work on an SDG challenge. And the SDG that has received so much traction is SDG 13. And there are several initiatives that the young people have been able to come up with. One particular initiative that I would want to highlight is the Together for Climate program that is run by members who sat in the first cohort of the Governor's Young Leaders Program, and they are doing awareness campaigns through roundtables, organizing roundtables with key ecosystem players. This could be people who are already in the climate space or driving climate action in different ways. Could be in the private sector, they're climate scientists, and then creating a link between these people and the young people. So having panel discussions with the experts to just break down the climate science and also create certain pathways for young people to be involved in climate action. But we also emphasize on having the presence of private sector or development partners because of funding. When we have these conversations, the most important outcome is that the deliberations get to see the light of day, the recommendations that come out of that place, or the ideas that these young people develop through these engagements are able to be funded so that they're scaled and people feel their impact. Apart from climate issues, we also just want to amplify the voices of the young people across domains. So we have created, it's like a public speaking platform where young people, this is now open to all, where young people get to come and speak about issues that are pertinent to young people. But we thought that would open the spectrum to a whole load of issues, but then we realized that people still want to speak about climate change, want to speak about the risks and the threats that we're facing. So we continue to also use that platform to just advance that conversation.
Okay, that's wonderful. I think it's great that, SDG 13 is, of course, climate action, and it's wonderful that you are indeed amplifying the voices of the youth and young people. It is indeed these future generations who are going to be affected most by climate change and what's happening right now. So that is, of course, really important that you're making sure that they have a voice and you're amplifying what it is they have to say. I also thought it was wonderful when you highlighted the collaboration between sectors that is necessary, between the public and the private sector, for us to implement solutions in a way that's meaningful. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to our next question now. You did mention climate action. That's obviously one of the specific themes of COP27. COP27 does have some thematic focuses like gender, decarbonization, and finance, water as well. Is there a theme that the conference highlights that you see as being particularly essential to solving the climate crisis?
Yes, finance, of course. Finance, of course, because that is what is lacking, and especially to just get to implement some of the solutions that are there, and to also just mitigate this threat, and also build up resilience. What we have learned over time is that there's a lot of information held by our communities, because some of these challenges may not be new. Maybe the design is new, but there are things that there are ways that they use to tackle some of these challenges, and so the only problem is to just get to elevate them and make them adaptable to our current circumstances, and also just empower these communities to be able to take action on these issues. I know it brings a lot of controversy when we keep speaking about finance, because then people would ask, your government have money, why is this not, this is not a priority issue? But we realize that, like many developing countries, ours are developing countries, and we just have a fresh, it's like a new system of governance. So money comes from the national government or subnational government that is semi-autonomous, but this semi-autonomous government also has different priorities. So it means the state of hospitals are not up to par the required standards. So the government would prioritize building hospitals as opposed to supporting maybe mitigation and helping communities to build their adaptation capacities. So with time, we are seeing a bit of interest, because now governments also appreciate that they're increasingly becoming vulnerable to this threat. But it is important that the people who really have brought us to where we are as Africa also get to become more responsible. I was really impressed to see Denmark the other day devoting some funding for adaptation and loss. So that was a good thing, and we need to see more people coming also to try and help these communities to build resilience, because that is the only way that then we can also get to contribute to the global transition. Otherwise, it will be pressure for Africa, and it may not seem like a priority. The countries and the cities are already experiencing some of these damages and losses as a result of climate change. They really want to pump in money into it, but then their hands are tied because of limited resources. But also another issue that caught my attention was a conversation on water. Currently in Kenya, we have a drought in some parts of northern Kenya, and this has brought some immense pressure and on people lives, because we've lost lives, we've lost animals. It's just not being aired out there, but it's a real crisis. As I also earlier mentioned, in Mombasa, we have the similar challenges, but you know, they say water is life. So what it means that without water, there's no life, and we have to now more than ever also just get to protect our water resources. There's a recent case in Kenya that really messed up livelihoods. There were some ecological changes in Lake Victoria, and particularly Winam Gulf in Kisumu County. So Lake Victoria passes around. So because of those ecological challenges that we could attribute to climate change, we saw serious damages on fish, and serious deaths fish, and losses to fish farmers who had cages along that gulf. And that means that guys will continue to starve, because then the water is no longer safe for breeding of fish. So it's difficult. It's difficult, and we have to now have this conversation on water quality, quantities, and just protecting what we have.
Yeah, I think that definitely from what you're saying, we can see that the finance obviously underpins so much, and also it's a really difficult choice to have to make if you are in a position where you have to appropriate public funds to, you know, building a hospital and protecting healthcare, and then how much of that would you appropriate towards, you know, climate change and climate adaptation. And it's also, I guess, important to remember that in terms of financing, there, you know, monies have been pledged by the developed countries to developing nations and nations currently experiencing the real pressures of climate change. So it's important to remember that that funding needs to be activated in order to ease the pressure to make the difficult choices that, you know, governments do have to make. This is something that's very important to bear in mind.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, you see, this conversation about money is money available. We don't see it. We just see it in conferences that there's money, and even if it is available, it's so difficult to access, because the bureaucracies that these countries or cities have to go through to be able to access this funding. Also the challenges of capacity, just having the technical capacity to be able to make some of these applications, and also to get to absorb the funding in the way that we appreciated.
Great, and that's good. And you give insight into the fact that yes, the funding is there, but you're not seeing it. So this is a reality that we have to understand that a lot of developing countries are indeed facing. So we're coming up now to just asking another question in terms of collaboration. You have touched on this before, but how important is the concept of collaboration, would you say, in solving this crisis? Can you give us any examples of how you've been collaborating with government or organizations?
Collaboration is very key for us, and I think the little that we've been able to do at the moment is a result of some of these partnerships. As already indicated earlier, we are working with COMSA, that is the Covenant of Mayors in Sub-Saharan Africa, on an urban renewable, it's called Urban Sustainable Energy Program. So this is just to improve energy efficiency and to promote what are called renewable energy solutions in Mombasa. We are also working with another organization called the African Center for Cities, and this particularly is to create a stakeholders forum for an urban lab where some of these climate solutions can be incubated, can have brainstorming sessions with scientists to just be able to solve some of these challenges. So this urban lab, I think it will be funded to just be able to support some of the solutions or interventions that come out of the engagements. But most importantly is our collaborations with communities to be able to drive change, because what we have learned is that without the involvement of communities, then we will not make any progress. So we are working with community-based organizations, especially on mangrove restoration, river restoration as well. I mentioned that we have a natural waterway that has just been misused over time. So we're also working with the community to get to revamp or rather rehabilitate that particular facility. We are also participating in a lot of other city networks so that we get to learn from each other and just see what works and what doesn't. So yeah, I think that is what is happening currently in Mombasa. Those are some of the key partnerships that I would mention for now. But also on urban flooding. On urban flooding, we are working with some NGOs in Mombasa to just try and pilot solutions that could include green retrofits in Mombasa to just be able to try and limit flooding, especially due to high rainfall. So that is I would say that is what we are working on, but also getting to license businesses or private sector players who already have some of these climate friendly enterprises. So it's quicker for them to be able to start doing business in Mombasa and to also just help in driving that change.
Thank you so much, Mr. Angaga. Well, I think that's a really positive note that we're going to wrap up on. Your ability to highlight the importance of community collaboration, and that, you know, this is the way we can really drive meaningful change. So I really want to thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much to Mr. Basil Angaga, the Chief Sustainability Officer of the County of Mombasa in Kenya. Thank you so much for really highlighting the effect that climate change is having in the African continent, and that it's really important for us to keep in mind these COP proceedings in the context of the continent in which they're occurring, in the African continent. So thank you so much for your time, and we wish you all the best with all of your collaborations and your endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.